I'm Ken McCarthy, I live in Carthy. My childhood started in South Shalom, where we were living at my grandfather's house, not that I remember. My father at that stage was very unstable. We used to have a lot of fun with Dad. He'd take us down to the tip or refuge centre, open refuge centre, and we would collect scrap metal and stuff like that, not realising that the sale of that was what was putting food on our table. We were very poor. We had nothing, and anything we got was like a joy. But our family life was really good. It was all about community when I was growing up. You looked after the other person before you looked after yourself. Mum was a person that if somebody needed to stay, they were welcome. At one stage I think we had Mum, Dad, the 6 of us kids and 2 cousins and auntie living with us. So we're a pretty full house most of the time, and next door neighbours' kids were there 90% of the time as well. So it was a full house, and that taught me as a child to be welcoming. I started school when I was 4, only for about 3 weeks before I turned 5. It was a Catholic school. I didn't like school. They didn't like me, but I still went. From 13 years of age, I walked away. I wouldn't go to church. And by the time I got to 21, 22, I was bordering on atheist. And then I met Rita, my wife, when I was about 21. Her family went to church every Sunday. They were very religious. Once we started going together and got serious, got engaged and got married, Rita stopped going to church because I wouldn't go. When we had our last child, Erin, in 1989, when I was about 35, Rita decided she needed to go back to church. So I was left with the kids on a Sunday morning. And it's obvious to me now that God moves in mysterious ways, because after looking after kids for 2 Sundays, I thought, blow this, I'm taking the kids to church. So I did. I wouldn't pray, I would just sit there. And if they asked me to do anything in the church, I wouldn't do it. There was a sister there as a parish associate. She cajoled me into taking up a collection. So I was doing collections for a little while. I'd started to say some of the prayers and learn some of the prayers, but there was still not a lot of it in it for me. And then she asked me, would I commentate? And in those days, I wasn't very open with speaking in front of people. Although around the same time, at work, I'd started work at Ford Motor Company, I'd become a leading hand, and I'd become a supervisor. So I had to be able to talk in front of people. So it was at that same time I was teaching myself to be more extrovert. And also around about that same time, we did a role reversal. So Rita would go back to work and I would become the house husband. So that's what we did. And everything changed. I was one of the first operators on the V8 block line, and while I was on that line, I moved from 3rd class machinist to 1st class machinist. So I began to like the money, and due to that I would take all the overtime I could get. I was spending less time at home with Rita, because by this time we'd had our first child, and then I got a job on salary, so I became a supervisor, so even more money, more control, and I started to want to move up the ladder so that I could get more and more and more of this. And by this time I'd had another 2 children, and I think I just totally lost focus. I was just focused on being all those worldly things, and then it came that I got retrenched. When I got retrenched, it was a time that Ford Motor Company let go of 6,000 people between Melbourne and Geelong. So my chances of getting a job anywhere were pretty slim. But fortunately for me, I was offered to go back to Ford Motor Company as a casual worker. So I took that opportunity because after 9 months with a 4-year-old, you do go stir crazy. And I became a trainer. And in that role, I was learning to speak to people better. So this is all starting to meld together. So when I was doing the commentary, I felt much more comfortable. And at this point in time, the musicians had left, so Rita took up the musician. I started singing. Nobody left the church, thank goodness, when I started singing. I don't know why. And all through that time, from 1991, sometimes Rita would have to drag me to church, but I would still do what I do. Every time Mass was over, I felt better than when I come in. So in the back of my mind was this, well, there's got to be something in it. But I was still wanted to fall one way, but I was confused. Around about this time, Father Darrell had come and he asked me if I would join in an Alpha in the Geelong region, and I agreed to do that. It was late 2022 that my wife and I were invited, along with others from our parish, to attend the Alpha retreat, which was held in the church at Leopold. And part of that session was being prayed over by other people, which for me was a new experience. And that was really, really emotional for me. And once that had finished, I had the urge to go to confession. Father Darrell was doing confession that day. I had no clue what to do, what to say. So he opened with, "How long since your last confession?" And I said to him, "How old am I?" My first confession in 67 years. I still didn't know what to say. So he was asking me questions. Have I done this? Have I done that? Have I done the other thing? None of those. It basically finished, I think, with me saying, "I'm just a general sinner." After that, I felt some relief. I'd been carrying things for years in locked boxes in my mind and emotions. And over the next 3 months, through confession, every box got opened and I am at last truly at peace.